Okay, it's been pretty busy lately, like I said. So, in regards to the Motorola TV, it basically got all assembled and put back together. There's two more capacitors on the pin cushion board that have to get replaced, but for the most part, it's pretty much ready to go. I'm going to be turning it on tonight to basically see how far along it is and how much adjusting needs to be done with convergence and so forth. But it looked pretty good the last time. But on a side note, this is kind of a bit of a public announcement kind of deal here. So I remembered mentioning to everyone that I was going to see somebody, and I'm for respect of their privacy, I'm not going to refer to their actual name, but we'll just call them Ben. Okay, so there was an old man named Ben who had a repair shop, a TV repair shop, back at my family's home state. Now, how I'd found out about this shop that this guy ran was I used to walk down the road past that shop for years and years and years. And I never really knew much about the repair shop, but I knew it was a repair shop. And there was a neon sign that said Zenith Color TVs. Uh, and I didn't really know anything else. It didn't have a business sign or anything like that. It just had that one neon sign in the window. There were like bullet holes in the glass windows. So the place looked really run down. And I thought, well, this place is clearly abandoned. I mean, I was a teenager back then. This was like 10 years ago. I used to walk down that road to go to a gas station. So I'm not going to refer to the location of this place. I'm not going to say the name of the person because they have, from what I gathered, Alzheimer's. So the plan was I was going to go there and meet up with this person. So I did a little research about the business. I found out the name of the business. I found the proprietor's name, and the business was founded in 1958. So I thought, surely this person's probably not alive anymore. I mean, 1958, that's highly unlikely that this business is both still open and that the guy is still alive. Highly unlikely. And so I find the guy's name, I find a phone number. It looked like the place was under another business name at one point. And then I give it a call. I don't hear anything for a few weeks. There was a voicemail set up when I called of what sounded like to be an old man. The person didn't identify who they were in the voicemail, so I left a voicemail in their voicemail box after the message got done, and didn't hear anything for weeks. And I assumed the guy must have been dead. He must have died like probably 10 years ago or something. I must have just missed him. My family had no idea about this guy other than that about the repair shop being there. And I found out where the guy lived and all of that. Not trying to be a stalker. I was just trying to figure out how I could contact this person if they were even still alive. But it's a bit of a sad story, though, from what I'm gathering, and I'm not really sure exactly what the truth is. But this old man found out his name, and he did call me back a few weeks after I'd gotten done going to visit my family. I go every 3 months to visit my grandparents and such. They're kind of getting up there in age themselves. So I talked to this guy, and we basically work out an agreement where I basically end up going there to help clean out his inventory. The agreement was I would pay for things where the customers had not paid him for the repairs. I said that's reasonable. But he basically had no one who was willing to move his inventory out. And he had basically nothing moved out of this store since 1965 when he moved into that building. And, seemed like a fair enough agreement. I move everything for free and get it out of his hair so he can get the building fixed and sold. Because this guy's like 91 years old. I mean, born in 1932. He's really old. So he was a little eccentric. He kind of said a few things about like not needing to get vaxxed since 1952. He said he hadn't seen a doctor since 30. And I thought, well, I understand a lot of people don't like doctors. I mean, the doctors' medical bills these days are pretty high anyway. So I kind of get that. I don't like really going to hospitals either. I kind of get creeped out every time I go, so I get it. Thought, okay, this guy's a little quirky, so am I. Well, what's the harm in that? So he says he has no living relatives. He said he had two sons. It appeared he was married at one point. So he kind of goes along telling me his whole life backstory for like an hour, and I just kind of listened because I was trying to be nice because this guy's clearly all alone, at least I think. And I end up going to make arrangements to see him, and so then I do. I next time I go down there, I met him about a week or two ago, and he seemed a little confused about who I was. He didn't really seem to remember that we talked. Uh, maybe he'd be surprised to see someone looking like me being interested in his stuff, so I didn't really think much of it. The building looked dilapidated. There was lead paint peeling everywhere. It was in shambles, basically. The place looked like it was about ready to fall apart, and it looked worse on the inside. There was a garage behind it, looked like homeless people had been living there. There was like clothes everywhere, needles and stuff like that. It was pretty nasty. There was a rusted old out van with bullet holes, looked like the A-Team van. And it gets weirder very fast, so bear with me here. I know I'm sound a little drained right now. I've been up late overnight trying to finish up all these TVs. Blah. The Motorola TV, you have more TVs to work on along the way, but I've actually gotten a lot done with those. Enough sidetracking. So basically, I go in there, he seems confused, and it's really hot. And of course, the wildfires were causing a lot of smog in the United States, especially like a few weeks ago. So I'm there, and he wants me to lay out each thing I take out so he can do inventory, and I'm like, okay. He said he was going to close the business. He had some open accounts with alarm companies. So here I am, just taking stuff out, loading it up, and then he's just jotting stuff down on a list. He seems oddly able to move around fairly well for his age, which is a little weird. Uh, you know, I kind of started to realize something wasn't right because he started drooling when he was writing down the stuff on his notepad, and then at one point he lost it 5 seconds later after he just had it, and I had to help him find it. And at that point, I realized that this guy had been on probably at least a dozen different medications, including pain meds and everything else. And not that I'm judging, I, I just couldn't believe how he was left to be alone in this place. I don't know. He said at one point his son picked him up to go grocery shopping every week. I don't really know what the truth is, if his son's actually alive or if he outlived his children. I mean, who knows? But it's depressing state in America when our country seems to be very accommodating towards people who aren't really grateful for like how things. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it just feels like the elderly people in this country are getting left behind and not cared for by the younger generations, and it's to an extent I understand a lot of its bitterness, and I get it, but at the same time, it is sad. I feel conflicted. A lot of the generations have had conflicts, especially. I mean, it's going to get really ugly when the baby boomers, you know, age into the retirement system, especially. But so I felt bad, and eventually he basically seemingly didn't remember the deal we made, and he basically was under the delusion that he was going to live to 115, and guy clearly was getting Alzheimer's, and I could tell in his voice. I kind of suspected as such, so I just took everything back because I didn't want to be accused of stealing anything, and I just went on my grand merry way. I didn't look back. There was a lot of stuff in that building, more than I could probably search through in a lifetime. It was just sad. It was one of the last kind of old style vacuum tube service shops that was still technically standing, although not much longer. The holes were Swiss cheese. There was mold everywhere. This guy was just heaving like he was going to give out any moment, and I was honestly just creeped out a little bit too. So, uh, there was more to the story, but I don't want to like go into too much detail because it was pretty sad. So, just keep in mind that a lot of people are, I guess, kind of going through a lot right now, and but especially a lot of the older folks. So, just keep that in mind. See you guys.